Hi, I'm Gareth Hollis and welcome to video 5 in Everything You Never Needed to Know About Me. Quick recap on the trigger warning: depression, suicide, assault. At some point I'm going to be talking about these. I'm using a random number generator though to tell me what subject is coming up, so I don't know at what point I'm going to be saying it. I can warn you there will likely be tangents, there may be bad language, and I'll try and be professional, but I'm not a professional speaker, so things will happen, unfortunately. So starting first number 19. Average age of an American soldier during the Vietnamese War, apparently, according to Paul Hardcastle. Alright. Oh, missed it. 19. Okay. Top 3 songs. So nice quick one to start with then. In fact, that hasn't worked because I've written down 4. Obviously, maths isn't one of my strong points. So, the first one I've got is Freddie Mercury, Living on My Own. These aren't in any particular order, I should point out. So, Living on My Own, just one, it's just a great song. Freddie Mercury, what a talent, and such a shame that we didn't get more songs by him. I don't know if you watched the Bohemian Rhapsody movie. If not, then it really is worth watching. It was just legend. It was one of those songs I always said. I don't know why I always said, because it's a random thing to say, really. If I ever had my own radio show or anything like that, then I'd make sure the first record I ever played that had been like written into the contract was that I got to choose the first record. It'd be Freddie Mercury, Living on My Own. Either the original or the remix. Both are equally good, and in fact I can't actually choose between them as which is my favourite. The next song got down is I'm Still Standing by Elton John. Again, a great song in its own right. Elton John, again, very talented performer, singer, musician, and there's just a great vibe to the song. But aside from that, it's also, I really like the message. Like, you've messed me around, you've broke my heart, and I know you think I'm, dying in a ditch somewhere, but actually I'm still standing and I'm doing pretty well. You're not all that. Life goes on. And I just love the message, and let's face it, pretty much everything Elton John touches turns to gold anyway. And then the third one, or the fourth one, depending on which order you put these in. Hall & Oates, You Make My Dreams. Again, it's just a great tune, and it's one I don't remember even hearing it until quite recently when I watched Ready Player One. In fact, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later, but I was at the cinema, and in the credits, I watched the credits because I thought there might be something at the end of the credits, like a little hidden thing, especially Ready Player One, talking about Easter eggs and things, and I thought maybe there would be something at the end. Spoiler alert, no, there isn't. But Hall & Oates, You Make My Dreams plays during the end credits, and I just didn't recognise the song. I don't remember hearing it. Obviously, it's from the 80s, I'm guessing. So I probably did hear it when I was younger, but don't remember it. And I looked up waiting to see who it was by, and I play it quite regularly now. It's my ringtone, in fact. Just a really good song. I just love that bass to it. It's like it. I would love to be able to write music like any of those artists, to have something come out like any of those songs, and just think, you know what, that's me. I am a musician now. I've managed to achieve this. Whether it found chart success or not is irrelevant. To be able to make something as good as any of those songs, I'd love to. So the other one I've got, the fourth in the trilogy, if you will, is The Offspring, which is Pretty Fly for a White Guy. Not because it's the best song out there, not because it's amazing in its own right, to me it was amazing. I was 15 at the time, and I heard it on the radio, and I'd never heard music like that before. And it got me listening to lots of other music. In fact, that comes up later, so I'm not going to delve too much into that. But for me, it's got a special place in my heart, and it'll always have a special place in my heart for Pretty Fly for a White Guy. And yeah, I don't really know what else to say on that. Actually, it's a good song. It's not a great song, but it's still always going to be one of my favourite songs. And The Offspring are still probably always going to be my favourite band for various reasons. I think we've exhausted that one, considering that was supposed to be a short and sweet topic. It went on for a bit. 44. I don't think I've got a 44. No. So I'm using a number generator that goes up to 50. However, I've only got 42 subjects and I couldn't find a way to have it without doing it on a spreadsheet as a list. And I wanted the randomness and not knowing what's coming up next. So this is what I went with. 11. So I thought about using a bingo thing as well. The problem with most random number generators is because it's random, it doesn't mean you can't get repeats. And obviously, I don't want to be going into repeats on this. Number 11 is Cars. Now, if you've seen my other videos on YouTube, you'll know that Cars is something I like a lot. And when I was younger, I always wanted to work with cars. When I was older, always wanted to work with cars. When I joined the military, it was so I could work with cars. And it keeps not happening, unfortunately. Only as a hobby, anyway. What I've discovered about cars is I like the underdogs. I like the cars that no one else likes. Or at the time, it's not the obvious choice, put it that way. So when I was 18, it was the Max Power era. Yeah, the Max Power era. Mental body kits. All teenagers pretty much were driving around in these modified cars, Vauxhall Novas and Ford Escorts and Renault 5s and things like that. And I had a Fiat Panda, 1990 Fiat Panda, and you know what? I loved it. It wasn't my first choice when I got the car. I needed something that I could actually afford to insure. As an 18-year-old, I had previously been on my stepmom's insurance, which meant I was driving bigger engine cars, but then I wasn't building up my own no claims bonus. So I decided I was going to buy this Panda, and I paid 300 quid for it. And it was a great little car, really. But it was what I did to it, I suppose, that made it stand out, that made it get, I suppose, almost like the hate it did. Not because of the mods, but because I was doing it to the wrong car. I like to pick the underdog. So on that car I had, so it was a black car. I put on Vauxhall Nova mirrors and a Isuzu Trooper bonnet scoop. I made a custom mesh grille for it. I had debadged boots. I had a big ball 4 exhaust, Fiat Punto alloys, lowered suspension, Citroen AX GT spoiler, tinted windows, just loads of stuff. Just kept doing stuff. Just had night rider lights behind the front grille. Did up the interior, did up the sound system. And on any other car, people would have probably thought, oh, that's a cool car. But on a Fiat Panda, no. Not considered cool. But I would love to get that car back. But I don't think it's still around, unfortunately. It's someone reversed into the front of it and didn't want to go through the insurance, and he ended up giving me some money to get it fixed. And what I actually did, stupidly, was bought a newer, bigger engine car. I bought a Fiat Tipo instead, and I really wish I'd just fixed the Panda now. I had it sat there on the road, the tax ran out, and I thought, I've got to do something about this before I get into trouble about it. So I gave it to a friend, coincidentally the same friend who is the ex-boyfriend of my now wife. Unfortunately, not long after I gave it to him, he emigrated to Canada. So he then gave it to someone else, who I believe then gave it to someone else who used it as a parts car, or he might have sold it to someone else. And when I look on the DVLA check now, it's not there. I'd have loved to have got it back, because it was just, in my head, it was still a great car. And I had it for 2 years, which at the time was the longest I'd ever owned a car. At the time, I had so many problems with parking. I couldn't park anywhere near the house, and this resulted in pretty much every car I had when I was younger getting broken into. And because the cars were about 10 years old at the time, the insurance company would just write them off because it wasn't worth repairing them, unfortunately. I've probably had over 100 cars now, well, at least passed through my hands, not necessarily all been on the road. Pardon me, again. Although none of them are expensive. The most I spent on a car was £2,200, which was for a Mercedes E-Class, which the most comfortable car I've ever driven and the most luxurious. But I sold it to buy my VW camper. But that's the most I've spent. So although I've had lots and lots of cars, it's not because I've got loads of money. So many cars I've had actually have been like free or below £100. So especially when I was in Germany, I used to get, well, there's a process called BFG, which is British Forces Germany. And if you're out in Germany, you've got to get your car through this BFG test. Now, BFG is like an MOT, well, cross between an MOT and a German TUV. So it's a roadworthiness test, but it also, you've got to have things like continental headlights fitted. You've got to have the brake light, the fog light put on the side for driving on the left. Driving on the right, things like that. And then you've got to apply all the export paperwork, and it was a ball ache, to the point where lots of people didn't do it, and they'd go out and they'd buy a tax-free car, because that was one of the perks of being in the military in Germany, is that you could have a tax-free car. For me, never interested in modern cars. I would never have considered getting a tax-free car, unless it was something classic, which unfortunately was never an option. So people had these cars sat there, and after a while they'd start getting in trouble for them. So it was easier for them to just give them away. And I ended up with so many cars for either nothing or next to nothing, maybe like 25 quid because it had a nice stereo in it or something like that. And went through so many cars, and the majority of them, I have to say, some of them I did the work on, some of them I brought back to the UK. If it was still taxed and MOT'd, then I'd just bring it back to the UK and sell it. Some of them went straight to the scrap man in Germany, in Holland. Romond. I can't remember if it was this video or the last video. I was saying where I lived in Germany, and I was on the border with a place in Holland. It was Romond. Could not remember the name at the time. I've got a feeling it's a different video, in which case this is a complete tangent. So in Germany, I believe you had to pay to scrap your car. However, we were only like 5 minutes from the Dutch border. So I used to scrap them in Holland, and in Holland you got paid pretty good money for scrap vehicles, certainly more than you get paid in the UK. And in general, actually, cars in Germany were worth more. I remember my dad saying that when he was younger, he had a garage, and one of the things he used to do was drive to places like Belgium and buy a car, because they were cheaper, and then he'd import it, sell it in the UK, and even though it was a left-hand drive, it'd make more money. But it seems to be the other way now, and that cars in Germany are worth more than cars in the UK, even as a right-hand drive. Sorry, slight tangent there, but if you're looking at import-export, maybe you can make some money. Germany. Volvo. Volvo. So, I don't know why I wrote that instead of crash. When I was 18, in fact, it was the time I had the Panda, and the Panda broke. It had the cam belt snapped on it, and ended up having to have the engine rebuilt. While it was there, coincidentally, it had the head skimmed and gas flowed, and it was actually pretty nippy when I got it back. It'd go off the clock. The speedo would go off the clock, although the clock only went up to 100. Anyway, sorry, tangent again. So that was in the garage, and I bought this Volvo, and it was 1984, I think, on a C-Reg. Low mileage, nice classic car now. In fact, it was a classic car-ish at the time. It was in really good condition, and I bought it just while my Panda was getting fixed up. And there's this particular day I'm talking about, I managed to fall down the stairs. I can't remember how it happened now. I don't think it was alcohol related, and also in alcohol's defence, I've done some pretty stupid things when I've been sober as well. Anyway, fell downstairs, hurt my foot. I was working as a waiter at the time, and there was no way I could have been on my feet all day doing that. So took a day off work, and I thought, well, while I've got the day off work, I'll drive to Boston, which is about 20 miles away. This is Boston, Lincolnshire, UK, by the way, if anyone's watching and think, yeah, I definitely did not go to America. And I went and picked up these springs I'd ordered, lowering springs for the Panda. Unfortunately, on the way back, I was stuck behind another car. A car overtook me, and I went to overtake the car in front of me. And as I overtook it, it was down what's called the 7 Mile Straight. And it's pretty much a straight road, hence the name, with big ditches on either side. It's one of the few places in Lincolnshire you can actually seem to overtake people, because it seems full of just windy country roads. Anyway, I was overtaking this other car, and as I went past it, I don't think it looked in its mirror. I don't think it even knew I was there, because literally as I was coming past its back bumper, it started indicating right and started turning right straight away without actually checking to see if there's anyone there. I've managed to get around it. I didn't hit it, but I did start fishtailing and ended up in a ditch. I was probably over the speed limit. By probably, almost definitely over the speed limit, and it's my own fault in that respect that I couldn't control it when it started losing control, and I put it upside down into a ditch. And as it happened, I just closed my eyes. I thought, I'm going to die. I don't want to see this. Actually came away not without scratch, but relatively unharmed. Certainly when my dad saw the car, I mean, it's a Volvo, and there wasn't a straight panel on it. I mean, these things were built like tanks, especially then. There was not a straight panel on it. The only thing that actually survived was the alloy wheels, because it crashed on its roof. So well, that was unfortunate. So my phone said the file size had been reached, and it decided to shut itself off. So note for future, try and keep them a bit shorter. But I was talking about cars anyway, so I'll carry on with that. So the crash, unfortunately, I was hit by one of my speakers off the parcel shelf, decided to come loose in the crash. That hit me on the back of the head there, gave me a nice scar. However, I'll be talking about scars later, so I'm not going to go too much into that. My dad came out to where the accident was, and when I got put in the ambulance, the police wouldn't let him follow because he had to get someone out to dispose of the car first, because obviously it was in a ditch and it was leaking oil and petrol and all the stuff I was caked in, having just gone through. All right. Well, apologies for that. Had some technical issues that took some sorting out. So I've kind of lost my train of thought there a little bit. But I think I pretty much got to the end of what I was talking about with the Volvo anyway. So next bit, I was going to talk about car shows, which is if you're into cars and you enjoy modifying cars, restoring cars, or just driving interesting or classic cars, then car shows is something you're probably going to get into. I've not been to that many really. I did make the most of it while I was in Germany, trying to get to some of the classic VW shows that people travel from the UK for, such as Spa, Francorchamps Raceway in Belgium, and also Bad Camberg, for example. But I didn't go to that many really, and in the UK I tend not to get to anywhere near as many as I'd like, because got family, I've got kids, and life just gets in the way, and obviously money as well, because they can be quite pricey. So um, the last one, well, the last VW one I went to was VW Action in about 2014, I think it was, when they had a zombie theme, and I had to go because I've got a zombie themed van. So I thought it's perfect. I'd not long actually finished doing it up at the time as well. So that was perfect timing for it. And Santa Pod, it's got the drag strip as well. So I took my brick-shaped VW camper down the drag strip, and yeah, as expected, it didn't do very well really. But yeah, that's the thing with dragsters that aren't actually dragsters. You can't really expect much performance from them. Other shows I've been to recently has only really been the T3 only show, which is specifically for vans like mine. Unfortunately, my van is currently in the garage, so I didn't actually get to take my van, which was rather annoying, and got some looks of disgust as I drove onto the field in a T5 that I'd had to hire out for the weekend. But still, it would have been a good show this year. I don't know if it's still on now. I bought my ticket last year, ready for this year. But I'm guessing with COVID-19, it's probably not going to be happening yet. But we'll see. Might have to wait till next year. At least by then, my van might be done. And then the other shows I've been to recently have just been the VBOA, which is the Vauxhall Bedford Opel Association. Gone with the Cavalier, and with that, people have seen how the Cavalier has transformed over the last few years from a car I got out of a scrapyard to what it is now, which is by no means mint or concourse or anything like that, but at least it's a lot shinier, it's a lot nicer, it's had a lot of modifications, and it generally gets a good reception. That's what I was looking for. So currently then, I've got the Cavalier, I've got the van, as I said. I've also got a Jaguar, which I picked up. I talked about cars I get for free, and this was one of those. Someone was teaching his girlfriend to drive, and you know how difficult it is sometimes to differentiate between the pedals. Well, she decided to. That was a joke, by the way. She decided to hit the accelerator instead of the brake and took it through a fence. So she wasn't insured on it at the time, only third party. So he ended up deciding he was going to scrap it, and then, knowing what I was like with crappy old cars, he asked me if I wanted it. So I've got this Jag X type with rather a lot of accident damage, and it's not really economically fixable. So what I'm going to do is just have some fun with it. I'm going to paint it matte black. I want to put side X exhaust on, and black and white check roof, the big shark teeth on the side, and just stuff like that. Just have some fun, do some stuff that I wouldn't really normally think, let's do that to a Jaguar. But I may as well, because why not? It gives me something to do, keeps me out of trouble, and it means I've got a vehicle then that is on the road, and I can sell the Cavalier, which I mentioned earlier, because yeah, I've got to believe in myself, so therefore I'm going to sell the Cavalier to try and fund my foray into the music industry and see how that goes. And then so the Cavalier has got a video, the Jaguar has got a video at the moment, so it's going to get more as it progresses, and the van will get a video as well at some point when I get it back, showing what it was like, what it's like now, giving a bit of a tour around it. At the moment, all it has is some old photos from the show I mentioned before, VW Action. So it's got some pictures as part of that video, currently on YouTube. And then there's the Astra, which is my wife's daily driver, 2009, absolutely boring, no video, don't ask for one, it'd be boring. Modern cars just aren't interesting. That's my personal opinion, obviously. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, as long as you realise that mine is the correct one. So just a couple of notable past vehicles as well while I'm on the subject. So the Passat, 1987 Passat. We got, unfortunately, the front doors were quite rotten on it, and so I got some replacement doors, but they were a different colour. And rather than paint the doors to match the car, we decided just to paint the whole car. And so what we went with was, like the Bluesmobile, the old American police car, black and white, with the star on the side to serve and protect and all that. We decided to do that, make that into almost like a Bluesmobile. And I fitted sirens, I fitted flashing lights in the headlights, and it was fun. My wife got pulled in that a few times because she had this habit of putting on sirens at inopportune times, and also I think she it had a loud hailer on it as well, so she used to talk to people. Fun car, but unfortunately that one met its demise in Germany when the clutch went on it, and getting it fixed in Germany was going to be too expensive, and unfortunately getting it back to the UK was also going to be too expensive. And at the time, the car it wasn't worth enough to warrant doing it. We couldn't justify it. Regret it now, and in current market value, it would have been worth definitely getting it fixed, but we couldn't do it at the time. My Beetle. So I've had a few Beetles, but my first Beetle, the one that got me into old air-cooled VWs, and by the way, VW Beetle for me, I've had lots of cars, but that has been the most fun I've had. It's been with Beetles, and I will have another one day, I promise myself. So that one I bought for £1,500. At the time I had a Citroen Saxo which was modified, and I sold that to get this Beetle, and I spent the next year modifying it. So I bought it with 12 months MOT, and I colour coded all the engine, fitted bucket seats and a roll cage and nice sound system, some nice wheels, lowered the suspension, put decals on it, sort of Herbie style decals but with a different number, in orange and blue. Got rid of the bumpers and just did lots of things to it. Had some fun. 12 months later, MOT time, it turns out the whole car was made of chicken wire and filler, unfortunately. So yeah, don't necessarily trust an MOT. People do try and hide things. Unfortunately, someone had bodged it, put it through an MOT and then got rid of it. So unfortunate end to that car, because it was a really fun car. But in retrospect, it's probably just as well I didn't have an accident, because it wouldn't have stood up to much. And it didn't put me off, because I met some good friends. I was in a club by that point of VW people, and I was just enjoying the life. So the next car I got was obviously going to be another Beetle. And I've had a few since, but unfortunately circumstances meant that I don't have them anymore. And next one, BX, Citroen BX, one of my favourite cars. Another one that I promise I'll have another one at some point. I've had probably 6 or 7 of them. I had one as my first car. Unfortunately, where I lived at the time, they just kept getting broken into, written off, and now it's just so difficult to find one. And if I'm going to get one, I want to get it in the right spec, because things I've learned from doing the Cavalier, fitting electric windows is absolute pain in the arse. Central locking, pain in the arse. So I want a car that's got all this sort of stuff as standard. And a Citroen BX for a late 80s, early 90s car, it ticks all those boxes. It's still got everything on it, but it's a classic car. But it's a modern classic car, and that's what I want right now, I think. So I've talked enough on this, especially with the tech problems. This has been probably the longest video so far, and I'm going to call it a day there. And thank you for watching. I hope it hasn't all been ruined by the tech problems, or just ruined by me being me. And I hope you've learned something or enjoyed something, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Hopefully this is all in a playlist by now, so please watch that. Feel free to subscribe. I hope you're learning all about me, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, bye.